This is weird. Oh. We all live in a world, right, where, we all live in a world, but we all live in a world where there's certain things we're like supposed to be that sometimes we struggle to be. Like, I'm supposed to be happy around Christmas, and sometimes I'm just like, ugh. And in my family, I've been affectionately called the Grinch, which is, a confessional thing this morning, right? And I say that because, like, sometimes, like, there's the emotion of the moment that we're expected to have. There's these emotions we're expected to experience based upon the situation we find ourselves in. And sometimes those emotions don't naturally, sometimes our feelings and our emotions don't match what's expected. Let me tell you what I mean. It's actually one of the first books of the New Testament we have according to when it was written. It's Paul's letters to the church in Thessalonica. These very early letters, these frankly are some of Paul's, as far as we can tell, some of his very earliest work. The interesting thing about these letters, though, is that they don't always contain all this stuff, all the feelings. They don't always. They just don't seem to fit sometimes what we imagine. It's interesting, in the first letter that he writes to the church in Thessalonica, Paul is reaching back. He's left them pretty recently from what we can understand. He's reaching back, he's talking to them, and he's saying, hey, look, here's the thing. He writes to him, he says, but what is our hope and our joy, or the crown for which we glory in the presence of the Lord? It's you. It's you. Now, we would think in that moment that, oh my goodness, Paul must have been having this incredible day talking about this hope and this joy. He must be Paul's in this really great place. The truth is he's not. You see, if you read the book of Acts, what you find is that Paul was driven out of Thessalonica. There was a riot. They had to hide Paul because he was going to be in all sorts of trouble. So they hid him, and then under the cover of darkness, they snuck Paul out under the cover of darkness. Every guy is yes, what I want to do is cause a riot and then sneak away in the middle of the night. As guys, we're yeah, that's what I want. I want to have to sneak away. That's what happened to Paul. He literally had to sneak away under the cover of darkness for fear of his life. And then he's writing back to the church, and he's look, here's the thing. We want to come and visit you. I'm longing to visit you. Because he left this little tiny struggling community of faith, this little thing we call a church. He left this little group of people to try to figure this out and try to follow Jesus in the midst of a really bad situation. I mean, they didn't have PhDs in theology. These were people who were trying to figure it out and trying to follow, and there's riots, and the guy who planted the church got sent away in the middle of the night, and they're still trying to figure this thing out. In the middle of trying to figure it all out, the church begins to grow and good things begin to happen, and slowly things change, and their faith becomes deeper. It's wonderful, it's amazing, and Paul's I want to come back, and I want to see you, and I want to talk to you, and I just want to be there with you again. The problem is I can't because my face is still on wanted posters. And then he says this, it's very interesting. He says, look, I wanted to come again, but Satan stopped me. That's legit, right? It's one thing to have the sheriff mad at you. It's another thing when the very forces of hell go, no. And it's in that moment that, you know what I don't think I'd be writing? I wouldn't be writing roses and unicorns and rainbows, right? I wouldn't be writing really positive stuff. I'd be kind of this is really horrible, and it's really awful, and I hate this, and I think it's stupid, and I really think that Satan stinks really bad, and I'll be complaining and whining. That's not what Paul does. What does Paul write? He says, but what is our hope and our joy and the crown in which we will glory? It's you. It's interesting at times that what we do is we sometimes get an idea with a word of what it means to us. And then we take that meaning, that understanding of what it means to us that we have, and we push it back 2,000 years, and we put it on Paul. And we go, this is what he meant. We talked about this last week with peace. Do you remember this? Last week we said, here's the thing. For a lot of us, peace is an absence of conflict where I get my way. Do you remember this? Like last week we said, like this is what, for a lot of us, peace is an absence of conflict where I am proven right and where I get my way. The problem is that's not what the biblical authors are talking about when they talk about peace. Scripturally, when we talk about peace and shalom, what we're talking about is a complex system where everything is fitting together as it's supposed to, where God has brought things together and brought all the complex pieces together. And yes, there is an absence of conflict, but not because I get my way. The absence of conflict is because everything is running the way it's supposed to and the way God designed it because God put together the brokenness. You remember this? Same thing is true when it comes to joy. You see, in our world, and maybe I'm wrong, maybe this is just my experience, not yours, I don't know, but in my experience, we often substitute the idea of joy for happiness. We make them interchangeable. We look around and we say, oh, look at the Christmas lights. They're amazing. I'm filled with joy. Or we see the snowfall and we look and go, oh, it's beautiful outside. I'm filled with joy. And then all of a sudden when the snow melts, we go, oh, my joy is gone. This ring true. Or when we are driving down the road and going 100 miles an hour, we feel filled with joy until the cop pulls in behind us and our joy runs away really fast. Not that I have that experience often. See, here's the thing, right? Sometimes what we do is we take these ideas and we put them side by side and we think that they're equivalent, but they're not. Joy and happiness are two very, very different things. In the biblical witness, joy pops up in the most interesting places. You see, happiness is a feeling, but joy is something that runs a very different course. It's a river, if you will, in a very different riverbed than happiness is. It pops up in really odd places. The children of Israel, they leave slavery. They were slaves in Egypt. They leave slavery. They go through the Red Sea, and then you know what they do? They rejoice. It's joy. They engage with joy. Why? Well, part of us would say they're out of slavery. Yeah, but they're in a desert. In a little bit, they're going to be going, where's the water? Right? It's interesting, like over and over, like the Bible talks about joy in very difficult circumstances, in very difficult situations, almost as if the circumstances that surround you have nothing to do with the joy that is in you. Happiness is about what's around you. But joy comes from somewhere very, very, very different. The scholar and theologian Dr. Mackey says it this way: joy is an attitude that God's people adopt not because of happy circumstances, but because their hope in God's love and promise. Let me just read that again. Joy is an attitude that God's people adopt not because of happy circumstances, but because of their hope in God's love and promise. See, sometimes it's in the middle of the space between present reality and God's promise where we can most clearly see joy. In those moments where present circumstances and God's reality are far apart, the joy comes from where we choose to fix our eyes. We choose to fix our eyes on what's around us, we will never find joy. But if what we choose to do is focus on God's coming reality, we can't experience anything but joy. There's this beautiful line. Actually, we read this passage last week. You guys thought I couldn't get out of Luke for 3 years. We're back in Luke. Luke chapter 2. Because we're going right back, because where else do you look for a good Christmas story but Luke? Luke chapter 2, this is the same actual passage that we worked on last week. Luke chapter 2, we're going to start here at verse 8. And there were shepherds. They were living out in the fields nearby, and they were keeping watch over their flocks at night. An angel of the Lord appeared to them. The glory of the Lord shone around them, and they were terrified. But the angel said to them, "Do not be afraid. I bring you good news of great that will be for all the people. Today in the town of David, a Savior has been born to you, and he is Christ, or Messiah, the Lord." I want to paint a picture for you for just a moment, if I can. The shepherds are on nobody's radar. Nobody cares about them. You know how sometimes nobody really notices you until you mess up your job? The shepherds are kind of there, right? Like, those are the shepherds. They're the people that no one cares about, no one notices. Everyone wants them to stay away because, frankly, like, sheep are not the most cleanly, wonderful smelling animals. They're kind of nasty. And the sheep are out there, they're way away from everybody else, and the shepherd's job is to make sure that the sheep are protected and cared for. Nobody cares about them unless half the sheep come up missing. And if half the sheep are gone, then the shepherds get in trouble. Otherwise, nobody bothers to know that they're there. And the shepherds live in a world where even their own understanding of reality as good Jews, like, nobody in their world is looking at them going, "You guys got this figured out." In every city around there where there were Romans, they're like, "You podunk hicks have no idea what actually makes the world go round." That's what the shepherds were. There are people, everybody, even the Jews were kind of like, stay away from us, you're smelly. The Romans looked at them and went, "You guys have no grip on reality." These are the people who are out protecting the sheep from all kinds of wild animals, and people would steal them. And nobody even cares if they do their job as long as they don't lose all the sheep. And then all of a sudden, in the midst of that circumstance where there is no joy, the sky opens up. Which would be the highlight of your evening. The sky opens up. Oh, come on. It's not going to get better, my friends. It really won't, I promise you. The jokes will stay as corny for as long as I'm here. I promise. Okay? So here's the thing, right? The sky opens up. All of a sudden, there's angels there. And the angels look at them and go, "Hey, guess what? We bring you good news." The Greek here is euangelion. It's where we get the word evangelize. We're going to bring you good news of great joy. It's interesting that there's a translation of the Bible, the New English translation, notes that maybe the most clear way to translate this is, "We're going to evangelize you with great joy." I love that. We're here to evangelize you, to tell you something amazing. We are here to bring you, to give you, to explain to you joy. Which is kind of a neat thing. Because joy is about focusing on God's promise in the midst of whatever circumstances you're in. Here's what they say. Today, a Savior has been born. Let's pause for a second there. Because I think in some ways the concept today translates really, really well. You know what, as a pastor, I never have any trouble doing? I never have any trouble convincing anyone that the world is broken. I've never had a problem with that. I've sat down and had coffee with atheists. I have looked at people who have all kinds of different religions, had all kinds of conversations. I've talked to people who are searching and looking for Jesus. I've talked to people who have given up on the church. I've talked to all those kind of people. You know what? I've never had anyone look at me and say, life is perfect. This world is amazing. No one has ever said that to me. I can look at people and say, have you noticed the world's broken? 100% of the time, people go, yep. Never have any problem convincing people the world is broken. That has been true for thousands of years. None of us are sitting here going, well, you know something? I think us humans did a pretty good job with this place. We all know it's broken. That's easy. The good news is not that the world's broken. The good news is what? That there is a Savior that has been born. That's the good news. And in the middle of a field with people that nobody cared about, people who were the podunk hicks that nobody paid attention to, the angel shows up and goes, hey guys, guess what? I get it. Your present reality isn't what you want. Frankly, nobody else's is either. This whole world is broken. But here's the joy. A Savior has been born. God is fixing it. That, my friends, is the good news. And it's the good news today, the same as it was 2,000 years ago, is that there is a Savior. There is somebody who has stepped into this world, God stepped into this world to be the agent to fix our mess. We don't have to convince people the world's broken. There's no joy in that. We all experience that. The joy comes when we understand and know and believe in the fact that God is putting it back together again. That's where the joy is. And the truth is that's not only true for the shepherds, that is true for you and me 2,000 years later. It is still good news of great joy. It is still the answer. He is still the Savior. In the midst of the mess, there's still joy. When we talk about joy, this is what we're talking about. Not a feeling that comes along because someone liked our Christmas present. And joy is not that moment when we are ripping wrapping paper off. That's not joy. And joy is not what happens when we hear Christmas carols. Those are happy moments, and we should celebrate those, and we should rejoice in those. Those are fun. Happiness is a good thing. But that's not the same thing as joy. Joy, to quote Tim Mackey again, joy is a profound decision of faith and a hope in the power of Jesus' own life and love. That's just good. Joy is the profound decision of faith and hope in the power of Jesus' own life and love. That is joy. The joy that we seek and the joy that we long for is not some emotion that kind of is a surface level thing. No. That's not joy. Joy is that very deep foundational decision, that very deep foundational something that says, yeah, this isn't what I hope for, but thank God this is an eternity. That's joy. There's this thing that happens sometimes when we let those deep foundational truths, when we let them out, when we let them guide us, when we let them affect us. See, it's really easy to go through life and to let who we are and what we believe be guided by our feelings of the moment. In fact, honestly, that's what a lot of people do. But something different happens when we say, no, I'm going to take my eyes and turn them from what I see around me to what God is doing. Something happens when we choose to make that profound decision to trust in the hope and the love of Jesus. See, sometimes joy is the defiant cry against the forces of evil and the broken world that we live in. Did you know that? Sometimes joy is just a defiant cry. A look at the world around us and say, that just says, look, I don't care what you throw at me. I just know that he's bigger. I don't care what it looks like right now. I just believe in the future that he is creating. I know that right now it looks bleak, but I believe that a Savior has been born. Joy can be a cry of defiance. It can be a way that we stand up against the darkness of the world and say, no. You can have that space, but you can't have this space. You can make that look ugly, but you can't mess up what's in here. That is joy. Joy does not have to be a passive thing. Joy can be a fist shaking at the world decision where we say no. Oh yeah, you can mess this up, but you can't mess this up. You can make the world look bleak, but you can't mess with his future. This can be joy. There's this movie that came out years and years ago where one of these main characters is sitting in front of a crowd of people. And this crowd of people was in a very dangerous situation. The enemy is closing in around them, and in this rallying cry, the leader looks at the people and says this: tonight, we're going to celebrate. We're going to raise our voices. We're going to sing and shout. Because tonight we're going to remind our enemy that we are still here. My friends, sometimes Satan needs to see some joy. Sometimes Satan needs to feel the ground shake and the walls shake. Sometimes Satan needs to hear our voices raised. Oh, not because the situation is perfect, but because he needs to be reminded that we are still here and we believe in the one who is transforming all things. Satan needs to be defeated and reminded that he's defeated. And joy is the way we do that, by saying, I trust in his reality, not present circumstance. There's a song we're going to sing as we close up this morning, and the song we're going to sing, it's not a Christmas carol. I'm sorry. Not sorry. But it's a song, it's called Living Hope. We sing it regularly. It's a song that talks about just the work that Christ did and the way that Christ rescued us. And here's the thing, in my mind this week as I was thinking about this moment, I was like, man, here's what we're going to do. We're going to invite everybody to stand up, and we're going to sing this really loud, and we're going to make the chandeliers swing, and it's going to be awesome. Some of you see the problem. Actually, it's not. Here's what I want you to do. This morning, I want to invite you to choose joy. I want to invite you to sing. To sing and to say, God, yeah, right now there's things in life I would change. Right now, everything doesn't look perfect the way I want it to. Right now, the dreams that I had, the plans that I was making, right now, those don't look quite like it's not turning out the way I hoped. I haven't got to write the script the way I wanted it to, but God, I'm going to choose joy. I'm going to choose to believe that this reality is not the reality that you're building. I'm going to choose to believe that you aren't leaving us here. I'm going to choose to believe that the story where my life is right now is not the story that you're writing for me, but you are in the business of changing things. I'm going to believe that in the midst of the junk that you are the Savior. My friends, I'm going to invite you to choose joy this morning. Not only that, I'm going to invite you, for those of you who aren't here, who are joining us online, I want to invite you to do something a little crazy. I want to invite you to wherever you are. Sing with us. Joy doesn't have to be something in the sanctuary. Joy is in the living room, around kitchen tables. Joy can happen when you're on your phone watching Facebook live stream in the car. It can be a moment of joy. Joy is not dependent on what we see around us. It solely depends on who we believe Jesus to be. It solely depends on what we believe Jesus is doing and where we choose to focus our eyes. And this morning, we can choose joy no matter where we are.